All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go ahead and get started. We've got a busy agenda to get to. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We've got a few people that have requested to address council this evening, and we've got some presentations. In the interest of everybody's time, if we could just ask that everybody's presentations, if you're here to address council, be kept to 2 to 3 minutes. We really try to keep the meeting going. So with that, we'll observe our traditional moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you very much. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay.
Run over, David.
What? I was just kidding.
Okay. Our first guest this evening that wishes to address council is Seth Hoffman.
Actually, I'm here with Seth too. And so I'll kind of do a lead in because I need someone with more technology to explain it a little better.
Okay.
So I was approached by one of the local companies recently about increasing the speed to the internet to City Hall. You know, all of our departments connect into this internet service. And as the conversations proceeded, then I found out that we have the ability to get FiberNet from more than one vendor here. So the reason for the Seth being in here is to help with that discussion and to explain that we want to have the ability to go seek proposals from the other companies. I've talked to some of them, but like to negotiate with them because the cost of the fiber to be used in the city would be significantly more than what we're paying now for internet. Our speeds are okay, but they could be much better, and we'd like to build a base where we can do a lot more things with it in the future. Right now, the internet that we're using is about $129 a month, but we actually had to add another service on the police department because they have some cameras, and so we had to add another service onto that, and that's about $150. Fiber can range, from what I'm understanding, we're thinking 1 gigabyte, could range about $900 to $1,500 a month, which is significantly more. So that's why we're approaching council. So I'd like Seth to weigh in to talk about how that would work here and how it would improve our services a little bit. And I'll be here in case he has any questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
So my name is Seth Hoffman. I'm the Operations Director for Raven Rock Networks. I want to begin this before I go any further or say anything else. Some of you may be aware that a few years ago Raven Rock launched our own internet service as an arm of the company. We have since divested our interest in that and sold that off. So essentially I don't have a dog in the fight as far as the internet discussion. I am internet agnostic at this point. I am here to get the city what is most appropriate and best for the city. And to basically offer my opinions and weigh in on that direction. So realistically, as Amby said, if you think of, without getting too technical or taking too long, if you think of the internet and data connection to the outside world as water flowing through a pipe, okay? This is the most simple analogy I can give you. It's water going through a pipe, all right? And so what we have right now is we have a hub and spoke design where the internet from the outside world comes into City Hall and is then distributed to all the different city facilities and city locations, i.e. police department, sewer department, street department, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what it boils down to is everything is dependent on that pipe that comes into City Hall, okay, as far as that is the bottleneck, all right? So what we are proposing and what we would like to do is take bids from fiber optic vendors, all right, to increase the size, the diameter of the pipe that we have at City Hall. Right now, the pipe we have at City Hall is 5 years ago. It was considered about average to a little bit above average. Now, it is actually quite a bit behind the times. For example, most of you probably have speeds at your homes, especially if you're in downtown Buckhannon, that actually exceed the speed that we have, and we are portioning out to the entirety of the city network. So again, we want to take that from right now, our connection here is about 100 meg. We would like to give that a 10-fold increase and go to gigabit fiber. There are a couple advantages to fiber. It is more secure because it is a point-to-point light source. In other words, it's much more difficult for somebody to eavesdrop on that data connection halfway through the channel. It is also very, very fast. It is very, very reliable. It literally operates at the speed of light. Okay. So again, that would give the city the opportunity to do a lot of things that we can't do currently. Even simple things, Zoom meetings, council meetings. It would become a lot more interactive forum to where it was easier for citizenry to connect. The connections were more reliable and more robust. The city could start to do things at the transfer station, such as process credit cards and whatnot that they aren't currently capable of doing. So again, to use a little bit of what Amby said as the analogy, kind of like building a house, this is essentially shoring up and improving the foundation and would then give us at the city more options to be able to do additional walls, do additional rooms, do different things with the city, as well as improve the existing infrastructure all along the time. Additionally to what Amby said, as a general rule, fiber in the open market for commercial fiber, okay, you're looking at anywhere between $1,000 to $1,800 a month in this area for a 1 gigabit pipe. A gigabit is 1,000 meg. We currently operate at 100 meg. So you're getting a 10-fold increase immediately, okay? Now again, the pricing is expensive, but we've already talked to some of the vendors, as she stated, and it was just very kind of off-the-cuff type of discussions. The discussions that we've had already with the vendors, one of them came back and gave us a number that I felt was a little bit high, even though it was within market range, and I just point blank said, they can do better. I know they can do better. So long story short, really what we're looking for is the opportunity to go out there, source some bids, find who the best provider is going to be, and just be able to come back and really present council the option and say, this is what we've lined out, this is what our system's capable of, this is what this will give us the opportunity to do. And then, you know, at that point, hopefully get approval to move forward. If there's any questions that you all have, I know this is a lot of technical information. I will try not to be so technical about it when I explain it. But please, if there's any questions that you all have, feel free to ask because I'm here to answer them.
I don't have any questions, just a comment.
Okay.
I think we're all aware technology is just going to continue to increase. And I remember the days of dial-up, and essentially staying where we are in a few years, guess what? It'll be similar to dial-up. So
Right.
I think it's the right direction to go. And researching doesn't cost any money.
Right.
So, and we want the best deal. But, you know, we need to stay ahead of the curve on this. That's my opinion. So thank you for sharing.
Yes.
We need a new chair.
Are you
So
saying?
you said you have to run fiber. Where's it coming from? Where are you running it from?
Okay, we actually don't do any of the running. Okay, the city would not be responsible for any of the actual installation of the fiber. That will be installed by whatever provider we choose to go with. Now, you guys have probably seen, and I'm sure are more well-versed than the general citizenry on what's going on down Main Street. Obviously, we know they've been pulling fiber down 33. That's part of the big expansion that they've been doing all along 33, laying all this pipe and tubing and that sort of thing. They're also pulling fiber down Main Street right now. When I say they, that is a combination of CityNet, Suddenlink, Frontier Communications. I believe Lumos has some fiber that's coming down Buckhannon, right down Main Street. So what happens is, again, these are fiber optic cables, okay? So they literally trench them, lay them in the ground, or put them on poles, aerial, all right? And when we say run fiber, what that means is from the nearest point of demarcation, so from the nearest hub, all right, there then has to be a physical line put either in the ground or on poles all the way into the actual termination point, which would be City Hall. Now, again, the provider is responsible for that. Generally speaking, that in and of itself can be a charge that ranges anywhere from $3,000 to $100,000. We have already discussed with all of the potential providers that we have talked to, and all of them have agreed to charge $0 to installation for the city. Fortunately, the city has some connections, obviously. I have some contacts within the industry. I've been doing this for 20 years, so I was able to talk to some of the right people and say, listen, this is what our goal is. Put together a package for us, win our business. And that is essentially what they've started to come back with. Now, again, we have only heard from 2 of the potential providers. There are 4 of them. And the 2 that we've heard from so far, we like the package they put together. But again, we are just wanting to further investigate, the potential options.
Okay, sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea, it really is.
Council, we have under F1, this line item for action to further the research on this subject matter. I entertain a motion that we bring that item to the table at this time.
So, second.
We have a motion by Mr. Thomas, we have a second by Mr. Rigger. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed, motion carries. The line item is on the table for further discussion, if there needs to be any.
So you're just going out and gonna get quotes and come back. Are you charging us a fee for that, or are you just trying to help us out?
I am actually the contracted IT, outside IT consultant, if you will, already for the city. So there's no additional fee for the work that I'm doing in regarding to this.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but is there also, Amby, is there also a thought process of doing a motion giving you the authority to get the service if we authorize you to go to a certain number?
If you
Would that
want to
move
do it
things
that way,
along
that's
faster?
fine with me. I mean,
But she can come back also.
I can come back.
I would rather, let's yeah, because I don't know where, we don't know where we're gonna be.
Well, and frankly, the bids can vary wildly. And so that's another reason that, again, that Amby wanted me to be involved. I'm obviously responsible for a lot of the maintenance on the existing city's network on a day-to-day basis. And so, we wanted to make sure to kind of vet the bids using not only my industry experience already, but additionally with the specifics that the city needs and that the city already has in place, as well as long-term goals.
We're not gonna have a bid opening. We're gonna be able to, as you have
Right.
done already, negotiate when the different bids come in.
Correct.
With them.
So I'll make a motion that we authorize that process to take place.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Sanders, we have a second by Mr. Rylands. There's no further discussion, I'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I thought we already did that.
Well, we brought it to the table. Now we're passing it. Okay, like sign opposed, motion carries. Thank
all
you,
for your
Seth.
time.
Thank you.
Seth.
Thanks a lot, Seth. Thanks, Amy.
From the lowest bid is not.
Okay, that is true. Up next, we have John Waltz, who's chair of the Colonial Theater Board. And Eric Collins.
Mayor, Council, thank you for the time to be here this evening. On behalf of the Colonial Arts Center Board, myself as the chair, Eric Clemens is our vice chair. I want to talk to you today first about some updates, things that are going on at the Colonial Arts Center, and then refer to requests that we've made to begin a search process for our full-time position. First of all, I just want to make sure I share the enthusiasm and thanks from council for all of the things that have happened leading up to this as we continue our work in the Colonial Arts Center. The mayor was gracious enough a couple of months ago. We got together because we and Mr. Sanders, we wanted to talk about the fact that not a lot of construction had happened yet. So I think all of us were unsure of, well, how do you put a professional person into the building? What are they going to be doing? How's that time come? I think we all know all the constraints everyone's dealing with relative to construction. Well, luckily, with some nudging, I think some help from the city, help from Bryson Van Nostrand and some others, I'm happy to say that construction is well underway. It goes on in chunks, it goes on in parts, obviously, and I want to give a lot of thanks to all the city employees and others that have been part of that work and planning through this entire time. A couple of things that have happened recently. Tomorrow, we will accept a gift from First Energy to the space, which is really great news and continued giving. I just came from a meeting a little earlier today with another potential donor that could be quite significant. And so as that progresses, we look forward to sharing more with the city about that potential. Some of you got to attend the show of Mr. Chuck Olson in the MIB Gallery. Kudos to Buckhannon. We were just informed his show here, which followed a show in Pittsburgh, outsold the artwork he was selling, outsold his Pittsburgh show here, testament to the care for the arts in Buckhannon and in Upshur County, and for the support of this project. And so we do think it is time to begin the search process for the position that you guys graciously allowed us to bring and talk about before the full-time position and job description. We placed a letter into the packet that explained a little bit of some of the reasons we want to do that. Another thing I wanted to share when you reach that letter is official branding for the Colonial Arts Center appears at the top of that letter. So we will hope to be, we've applied for a grant for $7,000 through Art 26201 to have a website paid for the Colonial Arts Center. So again, trying to seek grant funding and fundraising to support those things. The first thing that would happen, we hope, is the sale of an official Colonial Arts Center t-shirt that people will be able to buy in support of the center. So we hope that all those things start happening, but I'll turn it over to Erica to talk to you about some of the things that we really hope our Colonial Arts Center managing director could begin to do right now in our ramp up to a hopeful opening in mid to late spring.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. Thank you for having Mr. Waltz and I here to speak. As he indicated, one of the first things that we started thinking about when we thought, do we need somebody working at the Colonial Arts Center right now if the space isn't done, right? If the space isn't done, when is the space going to be done? What needs to happen between now and then? And the conclusion that we came up with when we met as an organization is that there's a lot that somebody can be doing right now. I think everybody has the same goal of making sure that the day that the Arts Center doors are ready to open, that it's ready to become productive and contribute to the economic vibrancy of downtown Buckhannon. And in order to get it there, somebody has to be in on the front end. The doors aren't just going to open and voila, the place starts to operate. So as Mr. Waltz indicated in the letter, we talked about a lot of things. The first thing is establishing the website, establishing marketing, establishing a brand so that folks both in Buckhannon and outside of Buckhannon know that the Colonial Arts Center is here and available for events and available for bookings. The second thing is starting to form relationships with different civic organizations within and without Buckhannon. Again, to make sure that folks know that the Colonial Arts Center is here in downtown Buckhannon and it's going to be ready to go, it's ready for events, it's ready for programming. Third is meeting with partner organizations. There are various organizations that have been identified within Buckhannon and Upshur County, such as Art 26201, the Board of Education, the Camera Club, Buckhannon Community Theater. All of those types of organizations need to know what benefit is the space going to provide them, how can they program in the space, and how can they partner with the Colonial Arts Center. So establishing those relationships and getting a calendar outline. One of the problems that Buckhannon has always had is that there's no central community arts or community events calendar. The CVB does their best, but it's just not really been able to kind of capture that market. So our vision is that the director that is put in place at the Colonial Arts Center now can start working for a 2022 Community Arts and Community Events Center calendar that can be distributed. The next thing, and the thing that's probably most important, is to start looking for grants and fundraising opportunities. The many grant deadlines for various organizations, including the West Virginia Division of Culture and History, run in March. So getting somebody in the first quarter that's able to apply for those grants and get those grants going, establishing fundraising and revenue sources for the space so that when the doors open, it becomes a self-sustaining space that's paying for itself and again contributing to the economic vibrancy of downtown. The next thing is establishing the facility management plans. There's going to need to be a lot of policies and procedures. You know, how soon, once you rent the space, can you come in and set up? Who cleans up? How does that happen? What hours are you renting the space? What forms are we going to use? Verifying that whoever's renting the space has proper insurance so the city isn't liable. Our vision is that someone really needs to be doing those things before the Colonial Arts Center opens so that we can make sure, again, as soon as it opens, as soon as construction is done, it's ready to go. And the last thing is really establishing programming, making sure that as soon as the doors open, we have programs in that space. We have places that are renting the space. As I believe the council knows, the Board of Education recently posted a position to have someone working in the space. So having a representative of the Colonial Arts Center employed by the city to start working in coordination with that Board of Education employee to establish educational opportunities for children and get educational type programming going in the space is also going to be very important. And in order to do that, of course, we have to have plans in terms of how the facility is going to operate, all of which we can't do if we don't have an employee to do that. So as Mr. Waltz said, we'd like to start the search as soon as possible with your blessing.
Okay, thank you. Yep. Before we start into this, I want to let council know, similar to the last presentation, F2 on the agenda is related to the presentation. And so I would like to entertain a motion that we bring F2 to the table at this time. We have a motion by CJ, a second by Pam. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like, sign opposed, motion carries. Okay, so take care of the parliamentary procedure here. We have F2 on the table. So we'll open it up for council's discussion.
I'd like to thank both of you and your committee. You've done a great job, and you're right. You don't open the doors. There's a lot of work behind the scenes and a lot of things that have to be worked out. And I think it's a great addition that the Board of Education has hired a full-time person to be staffed at the Colonial Theater. And we certainly, I think in all the grants we wrote, we discussed, an operations manager, a director. So I fully support this.
As a member of the committee too, I've watched the work that's been put into the entire development and process, and nothing has been rushed. That's one thing that I can attest to, that everything has been done very methodical, in a very methodical manner. It's been researched. There's been a lot of market analysis done. We've looked at areas the size of Buckhannon. We've looked at larger areas. I know the committee has done a lot of its due diligence and looking and investigating how best to utilize the talents here in Buckhannon and how best to utilize the space. So I can attest to the fact that the committee has really put the work in, the hours in, coming up with a plan, and it's reflected in this presentation. So I'm eager to support it myself.
It's mostly been.
Yeah, right.
I want to ask, the person that the Board of Education hires, is that not going to be basically the same type of job?
It is not. No. The job
Explain to me the difference,
Yeah,
please.
I'll be happy to. So, question about how the positions differ. So the Board of Education position is really geared around working with Upshur County students who are coming into the space and creating educational programming only. So that person is not at all responsible for bookings, contracts, maintenance of the facility, handling all the talent that comes in and out, working with the community organizations, no sort of fundraising whatsoever. Again, Dr. Stankus and Dr. Harrison worked with us very quickly to develop something that was more about, I think started with the vision of how do we take Upshur County students that in the afternoon want to have important theatrical experiences, and we realized, well, we can't really do that with volunteers in a way that's stable and understandable. And so she acted quickly and worked with us to work on the job description to actually create it completely differently, but to work to fill the voids of something that this position cannot really be doing. I mean, this person will be quite busy.
So the person that you're going to hire, will they actually be in control of the whole facility? In other words, the person the board is hiring, will they have to go to that person first to make any arrangements for anything?
Yes, I want to say the MOU that we worked out too, that I think council has seen, also dealt a little bit with the interplay of those two positions. But yes, the managing director will be responsible for all reporting to council. I really like, there was a push we really loved at one of the council meetings where everyone said, we'd like to have this really robust reporting. We'd like to know if this is working in real time. So this person will be handling all of that stuff. The Upshur County position will be solely built around education. And that person's going to be working on education that'll be delivered via social media, delivered via videos, I mean, a whole bunch of different things. It's really going to be robust. It's really, as much as what we could have dreamed might happen in there.
As far as the hours of opening, you don't have anyone who's willing to volunteer time until you're established that we can bring to the city citizens to explain to them that it will be a benefit and not a tax burden per year. You see what I'm...
Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, volunteerism, I think, will be a part of what has to happen in that space, but who controls who does that, how they do it responsibly, how they do it with children in the space. There's a lot of things relative to contracts and those things. I don't know, Eric, any thoughts on that?
Well, in terms of a tax burden, and that's a great question, I think that having that person working there on the front end is actually going to reduce the tax burden, because that person's going to be able to make sure that there are funds that aren't necessarily coming from, Buckhannon City taxpayers that are going into the space, such as private fundraising opportunities, like John mentioned with First Energy, developing corporate partnerships. There's a ton of, corporate money out there for things like that. It just takes a dedicated person to go find it. And it's going to be hard to find a volunteer who's willing to say, I'm going to spend all my time researching, applying for these grants and whatnot.
And I kind of meant it as a group.
Yeah.
And because a few minutes ago you said it would be paying for itself. That's when I was wanting to ask, will it not make enough to pay for the management position instead of putting that onto the city?
I guess I'm forecasting, but I would think that it absolutely will. But in order for it to do that, it's going to have programming where we're selling tickets. It's going to have camps where people are paying tuitions and fees. And once those things start happening, it would pay for the employee. But it's going to take an employee to plan those things before those types of ticket sales and tuitions can start.
It will be the Colonial Arts Center Board's purview to ensure that it is making the kind of revenue the council desires. It will be council's purview to make sure that the board is ensuring that this is making the kind of revenue. Of course, like anything else, we're going to start at revenue zero, and so there is an investment and there is a risk associated with investment. But that being said, I think we're already seeing fundraising happening without some dedication that we believe when we see the grants that flow by, and there's ones that we just know nobody has the time or the effort to get through. And of course, this will be working with Callie and others at the city level that'll work on these, work on these things too. But we plan to be very aggressive as we have been in trying to pursue those things.
I have an observation or a suggestion that I think that I was very much in favor of purchasing the Colonial Theater. I think it was a great potential investment for us, and really, in many ways, it was visionary for the council to do this. I also think it was very visionary of the council to have a sales tax for the community. And I've made several comments in previous council meetings that in the next 10 years, we probably can project a forecast that we're going to get between 18 million and 22 million dollars from the decision we made a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago. I still think we have what they call a revenue expense committee that we have opportunities to meet once in a while. And I think there's nothing wrong for a couple years to sort of jumpstart this project with a 5% commitment from our sales tax that we receive on an annual basis. We get it quarterly. But it's been close to, it's around $2 million. And I wanted a sales tax because it would give the city an opportunity to do things like this, or to maybe hire an extra person for 2 or 3 years that we might need to help the other employees within in our city. And we have not done that yet. I think it's now time. To me, this is a very, very interesting project for the future, and it could be great. I'm hoping it's great. But why not take a small portion of our sales tax on an annual basis for, this year, next year, and the year after to fund this position. And at the same time, develop a process where we can determine the revenue and expense effectiveness of this process. We may see after 3 years that we'll never make enough net income from the project to, say it's going to be self-supporting. But I also think that when you have a community such as Buckhannon and Upshur County, not everything we do has to be, break even. We can say, look, we have this sales tax, and we think to pay back to some degree everybody that's contributed 1% when they buy something, let's give them something out there that's really amazing. And I would make that suggestion. I would not be afraid to use a portion of the sales tax money to help the Colonial Theater.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And as a side note, one of the things you're absolutely correct about is having 100 people come downtown into that space, a few times a month, or hopefully, every weekend and on Wednesdays to see a show is going to increase the revenue that's running through downtown. So it's a win-win.
And that's what Create Buckhannon did a couple of years ago, starting with the Friday scenarios. That increased a lot of things positively in our community. And, I'm for things like that. And not everyone's going to work, but let's give it a shot and see what happens. And I think we'll be the envy of a lot of other small towns.
I would like to move to table it for further discussion. And we have some time. It's not even open
Okay.
at this time. So I would just like further discussion on it,
Okay.
if that's possible.
Well, I'd like to move this thing forward. We have it on the agenda, and they've come to make their presentation. It's a timely matter in your estimation, right? We need to get started. If we started looking for this person, what do you estimate the time frame? 6 weeks, 8 weeks?
That's probably about accurate. Yeah, 2 months is probably accurate, but the time will
We
take.
plan on opening in
2 months from the time the person actually starts working?
No, I'm sorry, 2 months from the time the search would start in hopes of having someone physical here to do the work.
Wait a minute, before we go further. Technically, we have a council member who's made a motion to table the discussion. To follow the procedure, I'm going to ask if there is a second that was a formal motion?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second to table the discussion?
I'll second it. And you want to know my reason why?
Yeah.
I think what I said about the sales tax is that we need to have a forthright discussion among the council to say, this is a great idea that they have presented today. But at the same time, they don't have a backup in regard to how it's going to be paid for. I think we have the resources to pay for it. And I think that's where we need to have further discussion to commit something from the sales tax to go forward and get this accomplished. And I don't think we have the time to do it right here, but I would like to see that Revenue and Expense Committee meet again and talk about the opportunities that we have with, $2 million, give or take $100,000 over the next X amount of years with the sales tax. It's phenomenal. And I think most of us voted for that sales tax because we knew we could do some really great things for the community. And
What do you think the specific advantage of designating a specific revenue stream and allocating it to this point when we made a commitment to put this project in the works and we have the money to do it? Does it matter that it's coming out of one account or another account? I don't really.
I think it does. I think it does. I think when, we just don't want to have this $2 million hanging out there all the time. It may be very appropriate. Maybe it's not. But to say for X amount of years, with this money coming in, let's designate it for something that's very attractive. And, I'm for what they're doing, okay? I think it's a challenge for everybody. I like to see Upshur County Arts Alliance get involved in it too. I think they're an organization I haven't heard anything about in relation to the Colonial Theater, and I think they should be involved. But the point is, they came with a presentation that's great, but they don't have a way to pay for it. And all I'm suggesting is, we got the
Well,
money
it's
to
not
pay
their
for it.
job
their-
to figure out a way to pay for it.
But we should.
It's our job.
That's our job.
And we
Right.
have,
So I'm
we have the
challenging-
revenues, so whether the sales tax money went into whatever account we put it in, some of it's gone into rainy day, some is in the general fund.
Right.
I mean, this is, it comes down to that money is being spent on this.
Then why not designate it formally?
What the
Let me-
advantage, I don't
Can I ask
personally
Andy
see.
for some input on that? I mean, can you shed some light? Do we just start designating sales tax like that?
When I develop a budget every year, I try to set aside things that, with home rule
Right.
application.
Right.
And it's infrastructure, capital expenses, there's, improvement of services to the community.
Right.
So when we're developing a budget, yes, I tend to try to say, well, building these streets is sales tax, hiring firemen is sales tax. So it supplements, sales tax supplements the general fund, yes.
So we can designate a portion of the sales tax to do something for 1, 2, or 3 years if we want to. Is that correct? It's not
Well,
against,
it supplements it. and-
yes,
Yes.
that's all I'm saying. I mean, let's
So
be,
how are you going to, so you're going to want 5% of
I
a
don't-
number that we're unaware what that is,
Yeah.
and maybe that's going to generate more money than is needed to satisfy this request. So I don't see why we're just not spending it as we need it from the general fund.
whether you use 1% or 3% or 10%, I think we ought to say that with the sales tax, we're giving it back to the community with hiring this person that hopefully will be a very successful operation.
Well, I know the mayor's gonna have to call for the question soon, but I would be, personally, I'd be very disappointed if we tabled it, because, again, we worked very hard on the theater. The theater is going to open. This is something the community has shown a great interest and a great story. We have great corporate partners behind it. Again, we're having, who's coming tomorrow? First Energy has been with us all along this trip. The West Virginia Department of Arts and Humanities has been with us as a partner throughout this entire journey. I'd hate to look at them now and say, well, we're going to table everything.
I don't think we're
going
gonna-
to. Well, it is, David, but just let me finish if you would.
Sure.
So if we do table it, I'm going to be very disappointed, and it's going to look like, we're turning our backs on the project. But it will be the will of the council, with this vote.
Well, I don't think we should let it drag on anymore. We bought the building 3-4 years ago, we put a lot of money in it, we've had donations. I know there's people standing in the background that's ready to donate and to get moving forward. And these people have worked very hard. We designated the committee, and we're fortunate we have those people. And I think we need to move on, because I think once we do this, the people are going to come forward and help out even more. So,
Well, I'll withdraw my second, but I would challenge the council
No.
to have some
Let's go ahead.
fiduciary responsibility, and let's do something.
Okay,
I still move.
so there has been a motion and a second to table. I'm going to go ahead and call for that question. All those in favor of the motion and a second to table the discussion, please signify by saying aye at this time. Like, sign opposed.
Aye.
Okay, that motion has died. Okay, so is there any further discussion on F2 before I call for the question to accept or to move forward with the presentation that's been given this evening?
I do.
Okay.
Is there going to be, we're spending the people's money. That's, please understand, I love the arts, I love beauty, I think what you're doing is wonderful, I think you've presented yourself well, please know that. I'm talking about the people's money, and we're hiring a person when a building isn't completed yet. That's hard. you know what I'm saying? I was just hoping that you could get together and build it. Just make it prepared so that we could take the people something to say, wow, this is really, they've worked really hard and they have this prepared and ready to go and it's showing promise and we're going to help them hire someone.
Sure.
You do?
I understand, yeah.
Okay.
When we approached council in July, I believe it was, with a full-time position.
I wasn't.
Yeah, I know. And then thanks for engaging with us about it. You know, we brought a job description that was robust. It's a full-time job description. Some of the donors and others, including every time we filled a grant out to the Department of Arts and History, we built this position into the grant. So while, yes, we are being extremely cognizant, I hope you would know that the work of this committee has been, you know, the community arts calendar that comes right from Keith Buckhannon, who would make sure we did that no matter what we did. You know, there's individuals that care about each part of this. Every part of the arts in this town has been built on volunteerism. You're looking at two of it, and we'd welcome anybody that wants to come help. Staffs of the gallery, feel free, let us know. But, you know, we're to the point now that we now have asked the state of West Virginia for a lot of money that they've given us and that we have made good on. But now we're to the point that in every one of those applications, we have mentioned a professional managing director, and it's important for us we do it. I hope that the council would know that we will hold that person to the highest standards. I know the council will hold that person to the highest standards, and I know if it is not working, we will be the first ones to tell you it's not working and we should do something different. So we ask for council's consideration of moving forward with the position.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that we approve
Second.
F2.
Okay. There is a motion on the table by Mr. Sanders. There's a second by Mr. Rigger. Is there any further discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll support the motion, but I think it's absolutely critical that this council shows that the commitment in regard to approving the sales tax was to do something like this, and that we want the sales tax in some way. I don't have a percentage, but we're going to be taking money from our sales tax to go back to the community to support this project and this position. And, you know, whether it's 1 year or 3 years or 5 years, I think it's something. I think that expense and revenue committee, Robbie, needs to sit down and talk about the revenues that we have to work with for the future. And not just leave it up to Amby to have to say, you know, she's got a lot of responsibilities in that way, and I think she would like to have some support in how that money is being spent. So that's, you know, that has nothing to do with this. But I think we need to take a serious look at that.
Okay. Okay. I'll go ahead and call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed.
Aye.
The motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for what you've done. In fact, thanks for what you're going to do, too.
Okay.
It's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Next up, we go to our list now. Laura Meese has asked to speak. Meese.
Laura Meese.
May I approach the bench?
Sure.
Thank you. These are for everybody, so
Thank you.
spread out, enjoy. So my intention today was to read from a prepared speech that I made. But I see that we are very busy today, and I respect that. And I also see that there are many people here who have business that is sorely needed to be addressed. However, I am a teacher at Buckhannon Upshur High School, and this year we have experienced an extremely high number of sexuality and gender identity bullying. at our school. It is astronomically higher than it has been in the past this year. And if you would like, you could speak to our Student Services Department about those numbers in particular. I don't have them in front of me, but I have been assured by them that it is a serious concern. I would like to propose, and I'm not sure if this is the actively correct way of doing it, but I know a few years ago we were trying to pass a non-discrimination ordinance for this town, and I would like to, as a citizen, re-propose that, if I may. And I know that I am coming at coming from a very informal place right now. However, I would like to know the steps with which we might continue that process again, revisit it, so to speak, because it seems to be sorely needed at this point, especially with commentary from some people in our community, some leaders in our community, that incites violence against my children at my school. So, is that possible for us to reconvene and, as a city council, discuss again? And if so, how may I help that along?
Well, I believe that subsequent to that issue being before council a few years ago, the Supreme Court passed a ruling that kind of addressed all that
Correct.
for us.
Correct.
So I don't know.
Correct, but our state is doing the opposite.
What's that?
Our state is doing the opposite. Our state has made it that, well, it has tried to make it, and I believe in the future they will make this attempt again. They have tried to make it so that if a student presents with a pride flag, they could be in trouble at a school system.
Which is, what are the courts? I would think if someone's doing something against court rulings, that there would be court action.
Correct, it's going to take years though.
And I don't know that
I
us
know. I would like,
affirming the court's action would make much of a difference in that.
I would say that at least having a declaration of some sort from the people on the city council of support for my students might keep some of them from killing themselves. And it might matter.
I think this is where you need to get law enforcement involved, because we're all protected by the law no matter who we are.
Ma'am, I have reported these to CPS and to the law before. It hasn't mattered, because unfortunately some of our law enforcement officers agree with the bullies. And our school is doing what we can.
What's the Board of Education doing about it?
I'm not sure at this particular moment, but I understand that they have been in conversations with a particular city council member who supports this type of bullying, at least from everything that has been public on social media. And I'm not here to call any in particular person out. The speech I wrote actually had no names in it whatsoever. It was letters that I have from students and former students asserting that they have been traumatized, and asserting that they have been tortured, and asserting that the bullies who do this are following the doctrine of some people on our city council, if not a singular person. When city council members, as leaders in the community, support treatment of other people like this, it trickles down. My students hear it, and they carry it with them to school. And it traumatizes the bullies as well. It's one of the main ways that hate groups solidify their connection with new people, is to take them to a traumatizing event, such as a cross burning, such as a beating of a black person. And while the individual people who are being indoctrinated into the hate group are not actively being hurt themselves in that moment, they are the ones doing the hurting, it is still an emotional trauma. It is a by-the-books thing that cults, that hate groups, that terrorist organizations do. And it is happening to some of our community and some of our children, and they are carrying it to school with them. So if you do not have much concern about students at my school who are minorities, then you should at least know, I'm not saying you don't, but you should at least know that it's not just the students who are being bullied, who are being traumatized in this situation. The indoctrination itself, and the hate itself, and the act of the traumatization can cause long-term serious issues for the students who are bullying. I will also say that the current administration at Buckhannon Upshur High School has impressed me with how much they are working against this and how much they are trying to foster a facility and a culture of love and compassion at our school. But unfortunately, again, when we have leaders in our community who are preaching the opposite of this, they don't have much stance. Again, I know that technically, legally, by Supreme Court, these students have protection. And I know that they have protection at our school from an administration who cares very much, and from teachers who care very much. But that hasn't stopped the numbers from increasing.
Can I offer something? I'm not sure if you were aware, but back in late May, very 1st of June of this year, for the first time, our city council, myself signing off of it, I presented a proclamation for Pride Month and celebrating diversity in our community. I'm happy to have a copy of that with the actual seal of the city for you, if you'd like to put it up in your room, that shows that our community did proclaim that we are that we welcome everybody that wants to be here and wants to contribute to here. We also have a resolution that is on file that was passed before my time and before I think there were a few members of council here that has all of the similar language in the non-discrimination ordinance. It just takes the legal challenges out of it for a local government, but it is on the books here. We do have a non-discrimination resolution that is in place in the city of Buckhannon, and we can provide you with that as well for your classroom if you would like to have it just as a centerpiece, as something to reference. We're happy to do that because those documents have been done, and I was happy to do the proclamation back in June. So I would like to offer that to you as just a piece of what we have done to try to make it known that this community does welcome everybody who wants to be here.
Does that include Muslim people? Does that include people with darker skin? Does it include Christians that are not necessarily evangelical?
It's more, it is a overarching, we celebrate diversity in our community.
That's beautiful. I would love a copy of that. I would also love a copy presented to each council member so that they can read it, please.
I think that one of the things that...
No, sir. Thank you. I am finished for today.
I don't have a chance to say something?
Not today for me, sir.
That's very interesting.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, really. Why don't you call me someday? You want my number?
Not particularly, but thank you.
You're an educator.
Yeah, Tom.
Okay, okay, all right, all right,
Okay, what's next?
okay.
I put a restraining order. I don't believe.
She just hit something.
John,
What you do?
you are up next, sir.
First, you went after gays and lesbians, then you went after Muslims, then Catholics, then what we should wear, then what we should do for our health, then how long our clothes should be. People need to realize that eventually you'll go after everyone. Speak up now, or no one will be left to speak for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What's your name?
John Anthony.
His name is Jordan.
Okay, I believe we have gotten through everybody has wished to speak to council this evening. We are about to head into our department and board reports. If it's okay with council, since we have guests here with the VIPs as well as all of our police officers for a presentation for Kalia, I'd like to ask for Chief of Police Matt Gregory to be the first of our department heads to report, if that's okay. Chief?
He's coming.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I know we have been talking about this for some time leading up to tonight. And, as you can see, I'd like to formally present to council the Kalia Award for the police department that we've spoken about for so long. So, Mayor, if I could, I have a statement that I'd like to read into the record. And then at a point in the statement, would like to make a presentation tonight. As you can see, we've invited the officers of the police department, Tim Smith, who's our administrative assistant, as well as our VIPS volunteers, to truly mark this momentous occasion. So if you could, I'd like to read this statement into the record. In the summer of 2017, the Buckhannon Police Department began exploring the concept of professional accreditation through the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies. During this initial process, we met with other agencies who were then in the process themselves. In addition, we attended our first National Kalia Conference, which was held in Jacksonville, Florida, in November 2017. It was at this point that I learned the full scope of not only the accreditation process itself, but also what it meant to be accredited by Kalia and to seek professional excellence. At the conclusion of this conference, I immediately knew that this was a desirable path to take the Buckhannon Police Department on, as I knew that holding ourselves to the standards and ideals of Kalia was not only rising to the level of service that the community deserves, but also these ideals, these professional standards set forth by Kalia are quite simply the right thing to do. From that point, the police department got to work. After familiarizing myself with over 400 Kalia standards themselves and learning the intricacies of the process, the first step was to formally register with Kalia as a candidate agency. This was done on April 13th, 2018. At this point, the full Kalia accreditation process was opened up to us and initial assessment for accreditation began. There were several initial steps to be taken right from the outset. Among these were activities like subscribing to Power DMS, which is the record software utilized by Kalia for accreditations, reading the Kalia Guide to Successful Accreditation Management, accessing the most current Kalia Law Enforcement Standards Manual, and establishing the police department's corresponding accreditation assessment that worked in tandem with this manual. Additionally, at this time, I also filed an agency profile questionnaire and held a meeting and review of this with our Kalia Regional Program Manager. It was also at the very beginning of this process that we formed the Kalia Policy Review Committee, something that you've heard me report on many times at council meetings in the past. This committee was tasked with working with the police department to review the policies and procedures of the agency to ensure that each of these were in compliance with the Kalia standards. From that point and for the remainder of 2018, the committee met on a regular, at least monthly basis to review the time-sensitive standards, or those standards that required action on the part of the police department at specific intervals. These standards included policies on things like property and evidence management, use of force, pursuits, training, communications, critical incidents, etc. As this process continued, we attended our second CLIA conference, which was held in Grand Rapids, Michigan in July 2018. It was at this conference where I fully began to understand the accreditation process a great deal more. I began to meet with Power DMS associates to learn the applications of the software itself, as well as the various functions of this program. I also met with various vendors in our exploration of different solutions to achieving compliance with standards like human resources management and employee training. In fact, it was after this conference that the police department absorbed 2 more software programs into our operations. Guardian Tracking was acquired to assist with everything from employee evaluations and the establishment of a personnel early intervention program to assistance with supervisory reviews of pursuits and uses of force, as well as recognition of employee performance. Also acquired at this time was a program known as Police One Academy, which allowed the police department to access thousands of pre-established trainings on a host of topics, ranging from mental health, ethics, and bias-based profiling training to tactics and officer safety. The Police One Academy also allowed us to establish our own courses that focused on many topics, including an internal use of force policy review, supervisory policy trainings, the Handle with Care program, as well as a training on the accreditation process itself. In addition to the meetings with the CLIA Policy Review Committee and establishing various software solutions, I also began to meet with the Parkersburg Police Department, who at the time was the only CLIA accredited agency in the state of West Virginia. Through this dialogue, I learned of Parkersburg's policies and procedures and studied their CLIA assessment to learn what types of proofs they were using to prove compliance with the standards. I also spoke to them of their experiences with the CLIA process itself and how to prepare for and respond to each of the components of accreditation. As 2018 moved into 2019, the focus of the Policy Review Committee shifted to police department policy compliance with non-time sensitive standards. The committee continued to meet at least monthly all throughout this year. All along the way, as I prepared the various police department policies for CLIA compliance, I would review our old policies and would compare them to the standards. Additionally, I would also compare our procedures to those of Parkersburg's, as well as many other police departments that we were able to gain sample policies from. Throughout this process, thousands of pages of policy documents were reviewed. Along with continued policy development, the proofing process also began throughout 2019. As I learned from the conferences and the various CLIA manuals, accreditation is a twofold process. The first is ensuring that the agency has a policy that complies with each CLIA standard, and in some circumstances, such as the case with bulleted standards, the policy must comply with each and every bullet. The second part of the accreditation process, is to ensure that there is a proof that proves through the agency's actions and operations that they are in fact complying with the policy and by extension the CLIA standard. Again, in the case of bulleted standards, there must be a proof for each and every bullet. Proofs can come from such things as police offense and investigation reports, body camera video footage, administrative human resources and training reports, etc. By the end of 2019, the Buckhannon Police Department had a full 543-page policy and procedure manual that was in compliance with each of the CLIA standards. Also, a full year of proofs had been uploaded into Power DMS at that time. Throughout 2020, the goal of the initial assessment was to continue gathering a full year of proofs for 2020, as well as fine-tuning the assessment itself in preparation for our reviews, which were anticipated for early 2021. To accomplish this, I worked with our CLIA Regional Program Manager, as well as an accreditation support network comprised of numerous agencies from throughout Virginia. This did not exist in West Virginia, as again, there was only one CLIA accredited agency in the state at that time. Through this networking, I was able to partner with 5 different Virginia agencies where they conducted a mock assessment of all the police department's CLIA files. This process took about a week, and afterward I had received 14 pages of constructive criticism. This invaluable information allowed me to spend the next 3 months fine-tuning the assessment to the point to where I felt comfortable enough to file a CEO request for initial assessment from CLIA. At this point, the police department had made over 1,400 attachments to Power DMS, including both policies and proofs to show compliance with the standards. Once the request for assessment was received, I was notified that our web-based assessment would occur in late February 2021, and our on-site assessment would occur on April 5th and 6th, 2021, where each of these attachments would be reviewed to determine our fitness for accreditation. As reported on earlier, these assessments went remarkably well for the police department, where we received very good comments and was awarded full accreditation with 0 conditions after each of the reviews, which is represented with our CLIA award right here. This included an evaluation made by 4 different CLIA assessors, as well as the conducting of a public hearing and the allowance of a public comment section as part of the evaluation process. So what does all this mean? Why go through all of this effort? Is the reason for all of this work just to have a fancy certificate to hang on the wall? These are all questions I have heard on many different occasions, and the answer is quite simple. I have said this many times before, and it is a saying that I picked up early on in my own personal CLIA journey. A saying which itself is worth repeating several times over. Accreditation is not about the destination, but about the journey itself. It is an ongoing pathway to professional excellence, because at the end of the day, and what lies at the very core of what we do as police officers, the standards of CLIA are the right thing to do. These professional ideals are what the citizens whom we serve and protect deserve, as it ensures that our values of integrity, professionalism, respect, fairness, compassion, and being community-oriented are upheld on a daily basis. By extension of this, our members of the Buckhannon Police Department who are with us tonight, including our sworn and non-sworn personnel, as well as our VIPS volunteers, are to be commended for being part of this process. Throughout the cycle of initial assessment, the police department held regular meetings where not only the CLIA process itself was discussed, but also the practices and procedures to ensure adherence to the CLIA principles was developed and implemented. Our personnel and our volunteers have been very integral during this entire process as they have stepped into and embraced each of these professional principles. And Mayor and Councilman Rylands, if I could call you up to help me present the awards, I'll read, as you do so, I'll read what they are, what they represent, so that we can, again, recognize the achievement of the officers of the department.
Just so everybody's aware, I asked for Councilman Rylands to be part of this because the reason all of this got started was because of his push and his investment and his forethought into the accreditation process. So Councilman Rylands brought it to us, and our police department took it and ran with it. And we are so very, very proud of the accomplishments of our police department. And before we get into this, I'd like to give everybody yet another round of applause.
Mayor, as we bring them forward, I'll read what we're about to do here, what each of these awards are and what they represent. To honor this achievement, the Buckhannon Police Department has commissioned the Police Star Medal and the CLIA Achievement Ribbon. The Police Star Medal is awarded to the sworn and non-sworn personnel of the Buckhannon Police Department for outstanding achievement in embracing the CLIA process and on a daily basis working toward and adhering to the CLIA principles. The CLIA Achievement Ribbon is awarded to all personnel of the Buckhannon Police Department, both sworn, non-sworn, and volunteer, for being part of the CLIA process and for being a member of an accredited law enforcement agency through initial assessment and at the time of accreditation. These honors bestowed upon our members acknowledge their commitment to professional excellence and the acceptance that doing the right thing is a journey that is taken every day.
Congratulations.
Lieutenant.
Oh, we doing a
Turn around
picture
with
each time? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta
We
get
got,
Where do you want us?
in
Here?
between the two of them. Yeah.
yeah.
There you go.
Form between the roses.
Make you go first then. Yeah, okay, if y'all look at me. 1, 2, 3.
And right here. There we go.
All right. A lot of smiling, a lot of smiling to do.
Congratulations.
You're a bit taller, so.
Slightly.
Here.
Oh, we got one more. Can't move. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, it's, I gotta get, wait a minute, I got a lot of height to get in there. Hang on. All right, now we go. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, congratulations.
Yes, sir.
All right. Beer? Here.
1, 2, 3.
And now me. All right.
Teamwork. It's a teamwork. I know.
Where's Arrows?
Oh, arrows. I know, poor arrows.
Right here.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Right here.
Congratulations.
One, two, three.
Congratulations.
Save the best for last, huh?
I saved the shortest.
What Tim's saying back here.
1, 2, 3.
Chief, Tim?
Congratulations, lady.
Tim?
She's not taking long.
Jeez. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
And right here.
Now, do you want to now?
You want to do all the?
I know. Are we gonna do one with Matt and you two? Yeah, you should get one with the certificate. Like with the.
Before we do it, yeah, bring the plaque.
That, I feel like we should get Matt and the plaque.
Now that has glass on it, it's gonna glare, so for a picture.
It's okay. I still want the picture.
Okay.
Even if it's imperfect. I think it's important.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah, that's.
Yeah, that's good. You go ahead. All right. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3.
All right.
Yes, yeah.
Bips, come up. You want all the officers before we do that?
Yeah, they're ready.
Okay, so everybody, the group picture?
Group picture.
Okay.
All officers come up.
Bring it over to the-
Okay. In the back, me and Tom. You scoot down a little bit so we can get Will in here or out. There we go. Okay.
Flip in between there.
Yeah, stand on your tippy toes here.
That's what you do.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Who are we looking at first? I was going
Right here.
Ready? Perfect. Sir, I'm sorry. Can you move just a little bit to the left? I'm sorry. I didn't move my way. Okay, just let me get all of them. 1, 2, 3.
Everybody look this way.
One more time.
Yeah. Okay.
Did the first lady get it? We good? Okay. All right. Okay, we got our, yeah. How do you want to do? Where is
Steve had to leave.
Oh, okay.
So we can just call them up one at a time.
Okay. Okay.
You going up here, Matt? Yeah, come on up.
Here,
Yeah.
where, over there, over there.
Where you want me?
Right here, front and center. There you are. Okay, where's Katie?
Right here.
Right there, okay.
The director guy.
One, two, three.
There we go. Hello, David.
Congratulations, and thank you. David, here's your pen.
Quite a collection there.
Right, yeah. What's going on? Right here first, David. You're good, David. You stay. Oh.
Okay, all right. One, two, three.
In this way.
All right.
So,
Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you.
hey, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Here's your pen.
Right down here, Emma.
Thanks.
Right here.
Right here.
Right here. Thank you.
Hey, congratulations.
Congratulations. Here's your pen.
Right here. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Okay, look right here, down here. Over here. And here. Okay?
Sir.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Look here. Look here. And over here. Thank you.
Long ways to keep talking. Hey, thank you.
I just was the moment between Matt and CJ.
Oh, yeah.
As Matt's getting ready to continue, I was part of, CJ and I both, we were part of the interview process for the CALIA managers and auditors, and one of the key components was the VIPs. It's almost unheard of, which, to us, we're very thankful for the VIPs, and the VIPs are instrumental in this community. A lot of communities have not thought of it. And so the forethought of our chief and putting this together and keeping such a strong organization of the VIPs intact the auditors were extremely impressed and thought that was very much outside the box thinking. And so we thank the VIPs and you all, every event that we have in our community and every major sometimes not so great, event. The fire that took place down here on Main Street a few weeks ago, the VIPs were instrumental in helping with all the control of that situation as well. So thank you all for all that you do.
Mayor, just stay there, and CJ, I should have had you stay up here, have a presentation to make to you all as well.
I'll let you have these so we don't lose them. So you got to come back.
I would like to present, as I mentioned earlier, and again, as I mentioned throughout this process, the Policy Review Committee was formed to be a very integral part of this process that guided us through from the very beginning to end. And truly, had it not been for the members of the Policy Review Committee. There's no way we could have made it to this point because we received very valuable feedback and input and had a very good working relationship all throughout the process. And I think that I mentioned the 543-page manual. That was because of the efforts of the Policy Review Committee and the input that we received. So, Mayor, I'd like to present a certificate of recognition on behalf of the Buckhannon Police Department to each of the members of the Policy Review Committee. And it states that this is awarded to each member for their services on the CLIA Policy Review Committee and for their efforts toward the Police Department's achievement of professional accreditation. And it is awarded this 18th day of November 2021. Mayor, I have a certificate for you.
Oh, Sanders? Well, thank you. Let me go up there with these guys. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. And I have City Attorney Tom O'Neill. Yes, sir. And then also part of our committee was Fire Chief J.B. Kimball. I'll make sure that he gets his. Yeah, he's not here tonight. Dr. Jeffrey Harvey was a citizen volunteer. And then she told me not to do this, but I didn't listen. Director of Finance, Amberly Jenkins.
You were there.
You got to print this.
You know I signed your check, right?
I know. I'll just stick again.
Don't worry, Matt, it takes 2 signatures.
I
so-
appreciate it.
We're looking down there first, and then hang on there.
Oh, we need Macy
down.
you're up here.
Down in the chair. Okay.
Can I
Yeah.
fit between
Yeah,
you?
yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
1, 2. Okay, I need one, and then we'll get one with Randy.
Yeah, look
1, 2, 3.
Teamwork.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Okay.
All right.
Great. Thank you, Chief.
Sir, thank you all. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Before he exits, I want to also let folks know that City Attorney Tom O'Neill was very instrumental in the in us gaining accreditation. We, as a council, we actually allocated part of Tom's responsibility as city attorney, and it also provided compensation for it to help the accreditation process along and to make sure it stayed organized. And he provided a lot of legal insight for it, so we also wouldn't have it without Tom. So I wanted to mention that too. So.
Mayor, that's all I have tonight. That was the sole part of my presentation, unless there's any other questions.
Any questions or comments from members of council?
Job well done.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you,
The
Matt.
effort that you guys put in and you all worked together and, I think the community supported it and I think you're in a great place now and good things are ahead. So it's your leadership that got us here and the support of your department, so congratulations.
Matt, I congratulate you, but I wanted to add, not a but the comment that Laura Meese made about some of the people in the police department. Do you have any comments to respond to that? Because that was not very, I wish you allowed us to.
Sure. Well, certainly, and I've said this before, if somebody has a complaint about the police department or an officer, we've always have and always will have an open door policy. I invite them to speak with me, and so that any complaint can be thoroughly investigated, because we take all of those matters very seriously, and will thoroughly investigate any such matters that comes to my attention.
Yeah, you've said that numerous times in the council meetings, and I appreciate you saying that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Matt, very much.
Thank you, Matt.
And thank you all.
Thank you all.
Yes.
All of you, thank you.
Congratulations.
Stay safe and have a good Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Okay. Jerry.
Yeah.
It's your
Back to
turn.
follow there, Jerry.
Jerry Arnold, hello.
Hello, Dave Thomas, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
Doing well. Well, good evening. I don't have a formal report, so you can thank me later for that. I just want to announce that the mayor's been in contact with me. We've had a lot of complaints over the non-paving. And again, we are at the mercy right now of the contractor. And the contractor assured me that he would be here this week to pave Lincoln Street. Well, I talked to him this morning, and he does have equipment in Buckhannon. However, he's not expecting to start until Monday after Thanksgiving. Again, do not shoot the messenger.
Till Monday after Thanksgiving?
Monday after Thanksgiving, yes. They are not working next week, and so he is going to start on Lincoln, or the plan is to start Lincoln, and they will run blacktop. One of the blacktop plants will stay open as long as we have high 40s, 50-degree weather. So there is some days, it looked like there was some days forecast that they'll be able to get Lincoln and Spring in. We're going to try to get blacktop, and I don't want to, like, again, I moved the paver, our paver, into the Spring Street parking lot today. We're going to try to get blacktop if they're making it and skim coat that so it smooths it up some for now, awaiting the paving contractor to get there.
Right?
Yes, we'll skim coat it first and smooth up all the rough concrete, and then they can come in and put the finished top coat on it. But I just wanted to get that out because I know that the mayor's been getting a lot of calls. I've been getting a lot of calls, and again, we're trying the best we can, but we are under contract, and we're at the mercy of the contractor to get this done.
So council, if you receive phone calls about paving, we are, you know, this is not an inside project. We are using Cooper asphalt, and they are, for all intents and purposes, in charge of this effort. So you can tell constituents that that's the story. That we are on them all the time. I call Jerry all the time.
Again, I will apologize for the misinformation, but you're getting the information that I'm getting.
Well, and like I told you this morning, any and all frustration is not driven toward our street department or you or anybody else within the city organization. Our frustration is with the contractor who took another job after bidding ours. That's the problem.
Well, what's his cell phone number? Maybe we give that out to the public and say, if you have an issue, call this guy.
That was a conversation this morning.
Is he gonna cut the price that he's gonna charge us because of this?
What do you think?
No, but.
Well, we will certainly not forget this
That's
as we
right.
look at bids in the future. So, but let's give him a chance. Hopefully he can come here and get this. Once they get started, it will not take long.
A couple
But-
days, they'll have that wrapped up. And
Right.
again, I'm not throwing anyone under the bus. I mean, things happen. I understand that. We all know that.
I think that bus left.
Yeah, it's.
The bus has a lot of people under it at this point.
But that being said, like I said, we're just reporting the information we're getting. And again, you know, we'll try the very best to make it happen. And as the mayor said, we're pushing as hard as we can push. But we are kind of at the mercy of the contractor.
But they can't do anything next week at all.
They won't.
They're all
I was
deer-
told-
they're all
I was
deer
told
hunting,
They
right?
will not. All I was told was that's the only time that their employees get off, and they were going to let their employees off.
So let's look at your report, have some good news.
I don't have one, so that's the good news.
Okay, good.
I don't have a report. I would ask though that, I don't know if Matt was signed up to speak or not, but Matt Reese is with ANO Railroad, and he's here to talk about F3.
Matt, I'm really sorry because you circled in, so I skipped right over you.
I wasn't planning to talk, I just
Okay.
was going to, if there was any questions tonight, we
Okay.
got to that point.
Did you enjoy the meeting so far?
My first one ever, and it hasn't disappointed.
What do you want to call that forward?
Yeah, I think we should. Is that?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, council, because now I feel really bad, but 3. I'd entertain a motion, we bring that to the table.
So moved.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed, motion carries. Okay.
Buck Lou, second in that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, we have on the table to approve, to authorize letter of support, A&O Railroad Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvement Grant application. You want to speak to it, or Matt?
What it is, we have a signal system on the railroad, sort of like traffic lights. It extends from Grafton through Buckhannon on this track, or including this track right outside of the building. It's in dire need of upgrade. It's been in use since the 1980s. We have permission to upgrade it using a broken rail detection system. It's a safety system that if something is fouling the tracks, broken rail, the trains will know to slow down, and we can go out and find the problem. We're applying for a $2.6 million grant from the DOT, and we've got letters of support from local senators. Senator Manchin, Senator Capito is supposed to be submitting a letter of support for this as well. Philippines submitted a letter, and we'd appreciate it if Buckhannon would submit a letter of support for
I
this
entertain a
grant.
motion that we approve submitting a letter of support. Thomas Rigger? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Do you have specific language that you would like
Yes.
included?
I have a draft letter I can send to whomever.
Okay.
and that can be used.
Could you send that,
Do you have it with you now?
There's a copy.
is it in here? Okay, good, okay, then we'll put it on our letterhead and I'll sign it and give it right to you. Okay,
Appreciate that.
thank you.
Thank you all very much.
And sorry, I didn't realize that we were, so far down the line here.
I wanted to pick that up tomorrow, too, right?
Yeah.
Have a good evening, be safe,
Thank
and have
you,
a
sir.
good Thanksgiving.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The only other thing I'll add that I didn't in a report was that we are anticipating the folks that are working next week in street will be putting up the Christmas decor downtown. So we're working on that as well. So that's all I have, unless there's questions. I hope there's not a lot of questions.
I do too.
I can think of a little bit.
Thomas, no,
Well, don't, please don't.
Something that will be interesting to discuss.
No pontification. Hey, Sam, talk of that. You've been picking on me.
All right, thanks, Jerry. Okay.
Next round's on me, promise.
Oh, boy.
What was that?
You need to get this done.
All right, I'll try.
I got him report.
Okay. Okay. Amby, it's your turn. Welcome to the show.
Mine's pretty quick and boring.
That's
Well, not
good.
to me,
That's good,
but it
Amy.
is to you, probably.
Thank you.
Okay, so your enterprise funds for October 31st, Waste Collection Board, $908,989. CD and savings, $58,536. You still have a letter of credit that we keep for the old landfill, $64,000. Water Board, money market checking, $368,568. Working capital, $871,842. Sanitary Board, money market checking, $556,232, and working capital, $457,076. Stormwater Fund, $76,160. We're still working on financial statements, but they're ready to present to the boards. These enterprise boards in the next month, so they'll be receiving those. That was with the help of Mr. Trent. The mayor and I will be closing on the financing of the new fire truck within the week, and that truck will be ready for delivery within 4 weeks, according to the dealer. We are finishing up employment procedures for the 2 new firefighters that are being hired, and they'll begin work next week. And they may already know Maria Potter and Shane Jenkins are the new firefighters. Are you going to mention the interview from council with the police? Okay. Council interviewed candidates for the position of probationary police officer and voted to hire 2 of those candidates. They're in the preliminary steps in the hiring process, and it'll take a few weeks to finish all of that, and I'm sure Matt will update you on the training phases that they're in. We continue to work in the office on code enforcement and permitting software. In your packets tonight that permit the building wiring and racing permits are in there with the new software. We are seeing it already helping with organization and communication between all of us in the office with this one software. And any bills to be approved, I'll try to skip through the most important ones that I should note to you. We paid a lot of bills the past month. $1,000 to Chamber of Commerce, their contribution from the city. $2,000 to the barbecue bash. $1,500 to Westfield Flood Insurance, and that's for the flood insurance for the Mudlick property. However, we may get a refund on that. We are asking for a letter of map revision, and if we get that, then we can cancel this and get a refund on some of that flood insurance. $9,100 to Bethesda Associates for the FEMA surveying of city lots that we needed, FEMA lots and city survey lots. $60,000 Consolidated Public Works for allocation towards parks and flowers. Flowers really get from hotel motel, so it's mostly parks. $35,000 to Consolidated for cemetery mowing. $2,500 roughly trucking for stone and sand and concrete, for the concrete. And $14,000 for a screed joint and concrete for Spring Street project. $10,000 RDR Energy for Spring Street concrete. $3,600 Argos USA for bulk cement for the mixing truck for multiple projects. $1,600 for yellow paint for the curb. $6,000 to excavator rental for tearing down buildings. $1,400 to Loudon Insurance for the artwork insurance. $28,000 to commercial builders for construction theater. $2,700 utility boards for cleanup at 65 East Main Street. And then $1,000 to Catherine Caperi for the earnest money for the property purchase across the street. And then another $1,800 to Westfield, and that's for the public safety complex building. And that's all I have, other than hoping everybody has a nice Thanksgiving next week.
Same to you. Same to you, Andy.
Thank you. Any questions for Andy?
What are you cooking, Andy?
I have not bought a thing. I don't know what I'm doing.
Better start calling your turkey.
Andy's going to take out. Okay, City Attorney, Tom O'Neill.
I don't have anything particular to report. I've got a few things under strategic, unless you want me to comment on any more.
It's up to you.
Well, I think it's important to say one thing here, and we talked about this a little bit before the meeting. There was a mention earlier about the city's proposed non-discrimination ordinance that was considered about 3 years ago. I think it's important because there are new members of council on since that time. I think it's important that you understand my position with respect to that ordinance, and frankly, any ordinance, regardless of its topic. The city of Buckhannon, indeed any municipality in the state of West Virginia, can only pass ordinances that are specifically authorized in West Virginia Code Chapter 8, Article 12. I think it's 812.5, actually. There's a whole list of 30 some odd different topics that the council can consider ordinances based on. The proposed non-discrimination ordinance that was considered is not one of them. And so it's my counsel to the council that that ordinance is not lawful for the city of Buckhannon to enact. Now, these ordinances have been enacted by a number of municipalities around the state. I acknowledge that. The dirty little secret is, though, that, and I won't divulge or I won't break any confidences that I've had, but I think if you were to secretly poll other city attorneys around the state, they would agree that those ordinances are unlawful as well. There's not yet been a case of an individual who's been charged or cited under one of those ordinances anywhere in West Virginia. And my guidance to you is that as soon as there is one, those ordinances will be all vacated by the state Supreme Court if it ever got that far. The same goes for the one that Charleston did on, what's it called, conversion therapy. Same thing. City municipalities are
very circumscribed by the state legislature on the kinds of ordinances you can pass. Those subjects are not part of any municipality's mandate in the state of West Virginia. So just, it doesn't matter what the topic is, it's just, I think if this is going to become a matter of debate again, I think it's important for you to know my opinion as the city's attorney going forward. Of course, I rightfully don't have a vote or anything like that, but that's my guidance to the
That was
council.
conceded 5-2, Tom. And if I recall, you weren't, you were
No, I had
out of town that day. if
I was
recall.
at a conference in Charleston.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter. I mean, that's irrelevant to the broader discussion. But in any event, my own feelings are irrelevant. What matters is what the legislature has empowered the municipalities to do. And that is not one of the things that the legislature has empowered municipalities to do. And it would take an act of the legislature to change that.
Home rule or no home rule?
But what do you do?
I
Tom?
guess you could go through the municipal home rule board to be able to pass something like that, but nobody has.
Right.
But shouldn't we have some standards where if a person comes to address the council and then will not even take a question after reading something or saying something, can we have some standards that if you address council, you should be?
Well, Dave, we kind of dealt with this a few weeks ago, that the public comment portion of the meeting is not question and answer time. Okay. Either for the individual who's addressing council or, for that matter, for the council to, question the speaker. If the council wants to question a speaker, put the topic on the agenda and have a discussion. But the public comment portion of the meeting is an optional. Again, there is no state law that mandates you have a public comment period.
Right.
But when you do have a public comment period, it is just for taking comments from the public. It's not debate time. It's not a question and answer period. It's a place for the citizens to come and speak their mind, and that's really all it is.
I think we've been pretty open about that, and I think that's a good thing. We talk, listen and give them their moment to speak, and I think I'd just like to, more restrictions is not something I'd be supporting.
But I would like the public to know that part of the meeting, even though somebody may say something that's totally false and not true, we don't respond to it. And
that would be my guidance to you, is to not to respond.
But it might be saying that, I wonder how many people are out there that watch us or listen to us know that, and then say, well, why don't they respond to something that's totally false?
Well, there are other ways and opportunities to do that outside of this meeting, which is for the public business.
Katie, you were going to say?
Well, just so I don't have to bug you tomorrow, what was the chapter that you cited for me to?
Chapter 8, Article 12. I think Section 5.
Okay.
Thanks, Tom.
All right. Thank you.
I'll be back.
We'll be back in just a little bit. Under correspondence and information, you've got a letter from the Colonial Arts Center. We've talked about this already, about the managing director position. We have a letter from former Mayor David McCauley, gift supporting Stockard Youth Center capital campaign. We have a thank you letter from the Almost Heaven Barbecue Bash from the Spooktacular event sponsorship. We have a notice of the Fire Civil Service, that is a tongue twister, Commission accepting applications for position of probationary firefighter. And then we've got a proclamation for Small Business Saturday, which we did this afternoon. Under the consent agenda for your consideration, we have the approval of the minutes, which all we have right now are the regular meeting minutes on the 21st of October. We do not have 11/4 or 11/15. We have the approval of the payment of our bills and the approval of the building and wiring permits. If there are no additions or corrections, I entertain a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented. We have a motion by Sheila, a second by David. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion carries. Okay, we have dispensed with F1, F2, and F3 already, so we are down to F4, and we've got an easement to talk about over at Community Bank. And I believe that we will call upon our city attorney for that.
So the council has before it, if you'll see in your packet, there's an encroachment easement agreement that has been prepared by council for Community Bank. They're getting ready to sell the property that was the old fire station that used to be owned by the city, that was sold to Progressive Bank back in 2006. Progressive Bank then merged and became Community Bank. Now Community Bank is getting ready to sell that property. When the city sold that back in 2006, it turns out, and it's only recently come to light during Community Bank's due diligence in this sale, that the old fire station encroaches on the alley by a very small amount, just a matter of a few square feet. And I believe that there is a plat at the end of that document. You'll see it's a tiny.
Is this little wedge at the back of the building?
Yeah. So, being bankers, that has bothered them a little bit. So they want to clean that up as part of the sale. So this easement is, the cleanest way to do this is for the city to basically grant an easement over that little triangle of alley where the building sits. It's only where the building sits. It's not any additional setback size on there. We are, for purposes of complying with state law, we are considering this to be cleanup of, or at least I am, considering this to be cleanup of the 2006 sale. So we are operating under the 2006 ordinance number 328, that authorized the sale of that property, with the encroachment on that easement. So this will fix that little problem and allow them to go through with their transaction. So the council has before it this easement, which I'd ask for your approval to authorize, and then we can get it executed and make them happy and let them do that.
Second. We have a motion by Randy, we have a second by CJ. Is there any further discussion? Hearing the need for none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Like sign opposed. Motion carries. Okay. F5. Approval to accept the revision of Section 9.07 of the Rules and Regulations of the Firemen's Civil Service Commission.
I'll speak to and explain the best I can. Council recently approved the Fire Civil Service Commission Rules and Regulations, and after it was approved, then there was actually it's a one tiny section in there that has some wording that kind of gave them a little thought process that they thought they should correct. So in your packets, the current language of Section 907, chain of command among members of the same rank, seniority shall determine rank with the member who's accrued the longest continuous service, with the department holding rank with members of the same position with lesser service. So it's a little confusing. So they want it worded to say chain of command among members of the same rank, seniority shall determine rank with the members who has accrued the longest continuous service in the specific rank with the department holding the rank with members of the same rank of lesser service. So the gist of that is, I'm going to try to just give you an example. We don't have it currently, but they thought someone who would perhaps have be in the department for, let's say, 10 years, and they did not seek to become a lieutenant. And then they became a lieutenant at 1 year, but perhaps you had someone there 5 years who was a lieutenant from day one. They believe that lieutenant who's been in the rank longer should be in command of a situation rather than the one who had been there 10 years but did not achieve that rank until later. So that's what that's clearing up. I believe the person having the rank at a higher rank should be in charge of the situation at the time with their years of service. Did I explain that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I believe so.
That's what that's about. And it's just to clear up that section.
Good job.
Do I hear a motion for us to, okay. We're ready to move along. All right, it's motion by Randy, second by Sheila. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion carries. Okay. F6, approval of memorandum of understanding, Catholic Diocese of Wheeling, I assume Wheeling, Charleston, property exchange at the bottom of St. Joseph's Hospital Hill. Tom?
Thank you. So, as part of Gateway West, there is where Amelia Drive comes down at the bottom of the hill is too wide for DOH specifications, and so they need to install kind of a concrete island. There's a rendering in your packet. That is going to require the donation of some property by the Catholic Diocese, which owns a relevant portion of the property in that immediate vicinity. This memorandum of understanding that's for your consideration tonight is kind of a trade, in a sense, in exchange for donating the property. The city has negotiated with the diocese to do a spot check of their storm drain down there, because there's some slow function, and we're going to use some of our equipment to just kind of take a look and see what the problem is. We have clarified with the diocese that we are not going to undertake any repairs because it is a private storm sewer line on private property, and city funds can't be used to enhance private property, but we can investigate where the blockage is. So those are the kind of standards of the deal here. The diocese will give up a 0.0523 acre tract, which will then be deeded to the Department of Highways for incorporation into Gateway West, and in exchange the church will be able to get a better idea of where the blockage is on their property, and then they'll be able to remediate that.
Okay.
Looks like a pretty detailed plan.
Well, that's Jay. That's Jay.
I've entertained a motion that we approve we have a motion by Pam, second by CJ?
Yeah.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed? Motion carries. Okay. We're just moving right along here. All right. It's that time again. The Upshur County Commission, through their budgeting process, has allocated $15,000 to us, to the city of Buckhannon, for fire response within the first due service zone, which would be areas served outside of our corporate limits. In the past, we have not accepted this $15,000 allocation. So, Mr. O'Neill.
The language of the appropriation, in my opinion, I'm sure in the county commission's opinion, appears to create kind of a contractual relationship between the city through its fire department and the county to provide fire service in the first due area in exchange for $15,000. It only binds the city during this current fiscal year, as long as the city does not intend to pursue, or actually it could even enact it, it just couldn't collect. As long as the city doesn't intend to collect a first due fire service fee during this current fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022, I don't see any impediment to accepting that appropriation.
So we have refused it in years gone by.
Because the discussion in those past years, and actually we have since accepted them, but at the time, it was an open question as to whether the council would want to implement that during the then pending fiscal year. And if the council were to kind of determine that nothing is going to happen on this as far as collection again, this doesn't prevent the city from passing an ordinance if the city does not intend to collect a first due fire service fee on or before June 30th of next year, then there's no problem.
I move we accept the payment.
And I'll second that, but I also think that we still need, at some point in time in the future, give very serious consideration to the first step.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Get with it, Mr. Reporter.
Move on there,
Take it on me, Thomas.
I'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed? Motion carries. Okay, finally, F8, approval of the agreement between owner and engineer for professional services and on-call engineering services. Basically what this is, as we all know, myself, the department heads, we participated in an exercise back in August to assign or to bring on-call engineering services for any and all of our projects that we would be executing. And it was done really because of the ARP funds that we are receiving through from Senator Manchin's efforts. So we have assigned Potesta and Associates. We just need to make it official with signatures, which basically I signed. And then the other part of it is that Stockard Youth and Community Center will use Potesta and Associates as well, which quite frankly only makes sense that we have one engineering services and they've already been participating in meetings and giving us thoughts for the potential new gymnasium across the street. So this is literally just a formality. This doesn't cost us anymore. We don't owe anything. We didn't have to buy or pay for the engineering services. We will be billed accordingly when their services are rendered to us. This is just an engineer of record. This agreement just basically puts it all in black and white, or as Jay would have it, in blue and white, so that we put everything to bed and everything's official. So what this is that you're authorizing me to sign on the dotted line accepting Potesta and Associates as our on-call engineering services.
Haven't we done this a couple of times?
No, this is,
I'm just asking because it's like every agenda, we have it.
My explanation was going to be simple. This is the last step of that long, drawn-out process.
There you go.
That we talked about. That
Okay.
instead of having every project,
So
now
it's
we
not
have
gonna
an
be
engineer of
Potesta,
record.
Potesta,
We don't have
Potesta.
to do this every time. You don't have to have it on your
Right.
agenda.
Okay.
So, and it is a standard contract.
Yeah.
Right.
That is
So
done
that
by
just
the
seems like
engineer.
we've approved them 2 or 3 times.
Yes, hopefully this puts it to bed once you approve the mayor's
Hopefully they
signature
get
on
the
this. I hope they know we really want them to come
We
to
weren't
work.
gonna say.
we need to write them a telegraph. So.
But yes, this is the.
Yeah.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Thomas, we have a second by Mrs. Sines. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed? Motion carries. All right, we are down to council comments and announcements. And we will start first over here to the left-hand side of the table with Mrs. Bucklew.
I'm just sorry to see that we had a business close this week that's been there for 24 years. But I found out that Aaron Harris has bought the stuff, the equipment from out there, I believe, and it's going to be out at his new place out. And so he'll be serving ice cream out at the Daily Grind. Also, Jake Andres, the business has been here for 71 years. It's closing, and that's a sad thing because, you know, Jake is a very professional man who's made Main Street look good all these years, the family, and I hate to see that go too, and I hate to see any business going out. But hopefully some of these spaces can be filled back up and we can get some people out that will work. But also, I just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, have a safe holiday with your families, and still yet be aware of COVID that's going around. So, thank you.
Thank you. CJ.
Well, once again, want to congratulate Matt and the police department. That's quite an accomplishment. It's a great thing for our community at large. And I can't say enough about the effort and the transformation, and so great things coming ahead. And I would also like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, time to spend with your family and enjoy that time together.
Thank you. David?
Me?
Yes, sir.
I echo what Pam and CJ said, and I want to thank CJ for helping with the police department as far as the accreditation and everything, and Randy and the mayor too. I still would like to just throw out that I do believe we should have a meeting, Mayor, with the Revenue and Expense Committee. It's an ad hoc committee, and it's at your discretion whether to do it. But I do think with the sales tax monies we have coming in, there are two different types of expenditures. One is that it gives us a capability, which we have already exercised this fiscal year, with a one-time purchase. That it doesn't mean it's going to be repetitive every year. But I think there are some considerations that we might take a serious look at. I mean, we know we went with some firefighters. I still think the first due is something we need to discuss long-term. And I do think the Colonial Arts project, the hiring of the, I've been involved with Fortune 500 corporations when I was younger, and it's amazing how much money you have to spend initially on a process or a project before it's actually out there. And it's an investment that corporations will take on because they know at some point in time it's going to be very positive for the bottom line. And I do think that it does make it a position of strength if we say that, you know, we got this money that's coming in every year, and we think that to kickstart something, we may have to make a commitment for X amount of years. I know we're doing that anyway, but I think it also makes sense to formalize it and have it as part of our process. And I wish you all a happy Thanksgiving, and don't eat too much, or eat as much as you want, I guess.
Thank you.
Amby, good luck to you since you're not cooking. We don't know what you're doing yet. But, I do have one sad thing to say. I lost my special soulmate. I had to put her down last Friday. I think most of you met Abigail. And when you're blind and you live basically by yourself, whether it's a cat or a dog, they become extremely, extremely important to, or I guess, to your sanity, so to speak. Some people may say I'm insane anyway, but I don't care. But she was a special dog, and she followed me everywhere. If I had people out my patio and we go in the door, she would look at that door until I came back out. And she did save my life one time, which is an amazing story. I'm going to write a short story about how I got her as a pet and what she did for me a number of times. And I'm going to submit it to Chicken Soup for Dog Lovers. Maybe they'll take it, maybe they won't. But that's all I have to say. Wish you all well and be safe.
Thanks, David. Jack?
Well, like everyone else, I want to commend Chief Gregory and the committee and all the officers that participated in the CALEA. It is quite an accomplishment. The second police force in the state receiving this award for this recognition, and the fun's just beginning. As you are already probably preparing for the next round of reviews. Yeah. What gets monitored gets done, right? That's the administrative rule, and it's tremendous. And Dave, we're sorry to hear about your pet. Pets become family, and we understand your loss there, and we're sorry for that. But anyways, wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, and we do have a lot to be thankful for. And that's about all I have.
Thanks, Jack. Sheila?
Of course, thank you, Mr. Gregory, for all of his hard work and dedication to our town. We came a long way with you, so We appreciate you. I want to also say happy Thanksgiving to everyone and happy birthday to my husband. It's on the 28th, so his birthday's coming up. So happy birthday, Ray Sant. Yeah.
Thank you.
How old is he going? Oh, my God.
Randy?
Well, again, congratulations, Chief, on a job well done. One of the things that I can say, and this is a tribute to you and to the CLEA program, is when I do see one of the cruisers going down Florida Street, South Florida Street where I live, or throughout the city, I know it's got a professional at the wheel. And that's a very important thing. I'm proud of this community. I'm proud of the citizenry here, and I'm proud of its inclusiveness. And I feel that it is an inclusive community. Some people may not think so, but it is an inclusive community. And I don't think we have to shout it from the rooftops. I think that, at least I'll say this, I'll live my life daily proving that, as Randy Sanders and as Councilman Sanders, City Reporter Sanders. And I know that your officers practice that day in and day out. You treat everyone equal. You pull somebody over just because they've done something that has caused that, no matter, what creed, color, whatever, race, doesn't matter. If there's a complaint ever filed, I know that you're ready to stand up and listen to both sides. I know you're a true professional. So I'm very, very proud of your department. I'm proud of the departments that Jerry Arnold oversees and Amby Jenkins oversees. So I'm just very, very proud to be part of this community, and very blessed to be a part of this council. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and we'll see you after the holidays.
Thank you, sir.
December the 2nd.
Yeah.
We do want to remind everyone that we do not have a consolidated public works meeting next week. It will be on Tuesday following Thanksgiving. So there will be, of course, no meeting on Thanksgiving morning. I can't add anything more than what the council members have already said. I want to congratulate Chief Gregory. Thank everybody across our city for what they do for us every single day. Our city functions tremendously well, not because of us sitting here on the desks, but because of everybody that works out there as well as out in on our streets every day. So wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving with friends and family, and we'll reconvene in December.
Yep.
So I would entertain a motion
So moved.
at 9:12 that we adjourn. Okay. Have a good night.